Mark chapter 5, verse 36 through 39 simply says this. It said, but Jesus, overhearing what was being spoken, said to the synagogue official, do not be afraid. Look what he said, any longer. He said, only do what? Only believe, only believe. And he allowed no one to accompany him except Peter and James and John, and the brother of James. They came to the house of the synagogue official, and he saw a commotion and people loudly weeping and wailing, and entering in, he said to them, why make a commotion and weep? The child has not died, but he is asleep. Here we see the command that calls for faith. Sometimes you got to talk to yourself. Other times, somebody got to talk to you and say, keep the faith. Amen. And you know, sometimes we think that when people tell us that, Kalinda, that, you know, that they not dealing with the storm we dealing with. But we all at some point need somebody to encourage us and tell us the manual to keep the faith. Keep the faith. Don't give up. I'm not going to tell you everything. I'm not going to tell you Genesis to Revelation. All I'm going to say is, keep the faith. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. The New Living Translation records it this way. It said, but Jesus overheard them and said to Jairus, don't be afraid, just have faith. That's what he said. Then Jesus stopped the crowd and wouldn't let anyone go with him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw much commotion and weeping, and he went inside and asked, why all this commotion and weeping? The child isn't dead. She's only asleep, only asleep. Here we see the text revealed surrounded by panicked messengers, an anxious synagogue official, and a pressing crowd. The Lord continued moving steadily and sovereignly to his purpose that he has already in his heart. In this moment of despair, verse 36 shows Jesus offering a counterintuitive command. Not one-time belief, but sustained, continuous faith that persists no matter what happens. Amen. And sometimes we just got to make it up in our mind, regardless what happened, I'm going to keep the faith. Now, it's easier said than done, but that's why you got to keep pouring that word in you. That's why you got to stay in prayer. That's why you have to surround yourself with some people that will help build you up, that you can walk by faith. And don't have to see everything all the time, and know that God is on your side. Can I get a witness in there? Yeah. You got to do that. This call is not to feel hopeful, but to choose to trust God despite of your circumstances. Mark chapter 5, verse 36 simply said that do not be afraid any longer, only believe. Knowing Jairus would be tempted to doubt, Jesus directly addresses his fear. See, the Greek expression here could be translated, stop being afraid and keep believing. Luke 8:50 adds to the promise, it simply says, the writer Luke adds to that, he said, don't be afraid, just have faith, and she will be healed. She will be healed. Now here we see the tender compassion of Jesus before even arriving at the scene. He reassures this distraught father that all would be well, but he must still believe. He must still keep having faith. He must still stand firm on the fact that he was believing Jesus could do it. Before his daughter died, he still got to believe Jesus is going to do something. Can I get a witness right there? Verse 37 revealed, for obvious reason, Jesus allowed no one to accompany him except Peter, James, and John. He shut it down, folks refusing to let the crowd follow him or into Jairus' house. Instead, he brought only his inner circle, Peter, James, and John. And when Jesus, Jairus, and the three disciples arrived, they found the funeral already underway. Already going on. Jesus delayed from his interaction with the woman, already had allowed the mourners together and began the funeral. But let me just drop this in on you parenthetically right here and park for a moment. Some folk you don't need to take along with you when you're in the midst of crisis. Some folk you need to, leave them out the crowd and don't need all the naysayers and everybody's opinion and this, that, and the other. You need to know those folks who actually got your back, and those who can get a prayer through, and those that got some power in the midst of their life because they living out what they talking about. Here. Jesus said, I'm taking James and John and Peter with me, and all the rest of y'all just park yourself right where you at. Yeah, park yourself right where you at, and so on and so forth. And I'll be back when I get back. Amen. The B portion of verse 38 reveals that as Jesus entered, Minister Brown entered the home, he saw a commotion and the people loudly weeping and wailing. And I really want you to get this into context now. And what he encountered here was a scene filled with professional mourners, loud in their wailing and stirring up chaos in the midst of commotion. Unlike modern Western funerals, and we might probably ain't talking about no black funeral, but we talking about, all right, I'm sorry. Unlike most modern Western funerals, which are typically quiet and solemn, ancient Jewish funerals were far more expressive. Three elements mark these occasions. First of all, mourners showed grief by tearing their clothes. Tearing their clothes was a sign of grief. You remember what Job did himself as his sons and all them others when he sat in cloth and in ashes and with sackcloth on him. He tore his clothes. Second, professional mourners were hired to vocalize and to display sorrow, mastering the art of hollering, screaming, and groaning. The art, they mastered it. Third, the musicians, often flute players, were hired to produce loud sounding music reflecting the pain of death. You know, some songs just, all right, yeah. You got it. Yeah, that's it. Now, according to Jewish tradition, even the poor were expected to at least have 2 flute players and 1 wailing woman. I'm moving on. Clearly gathering were anything but quiet and subdued. Amen, and amen. Now you can read into that because normally women are more emotional than men. And so, keep it in context and know I wasn't picking on you sisters, amen. So when Jesus arrived at Jairus' house, the scene was chaotic, folks. Hear me, the scene was chaotic. It was loud and it was depressing. Given Jairus' high-ranking stature as a synagogue official, you can imagine the number